AITA for paying for my ex-wife's lover's wedding in a way she never saw coming? I'm Grant, 38. My ex-wife is Marissa. She's 36 and likes pretty pictures of herself in hats and jackets with brand names on them. We met at a fall festival where a cover band was playing classic rock and a generator hummed behind the stage. She laughed at my joke about the haunted hayride tractor sounding like it needed a tune-up. Everything felt easy then. We got married. Our son is Theo. He's 9. Long legs, quick mind, asks questions one after another like he's trying to catch thoughts before they get away. He loves anything with wheels, skateboards, toy cars, rolling toolboxes, you name it. Sometimes he lines up his toy cars by the width of their wheels and tells me which one would take a corner best. He's a good kid, the kind that makes you want to be a better adult because you see yourself reflected in him and you try to stand up straighter. My old business partner is Everett. You probably know someone like him, the type who sells the sizzle and forgets you still need the steak. He can talk a customer into paying for a premium insulated door by describing it as a winter coat for your house. He can also talk his way out of a problem by smiling and shifting the subject 2 inches to the left. It's a skill and a way of hiding. For a while, our differences worked. He did the talking. I made sure the door actually worked when he was done. Then small inconsistencies started to show up. An invoice with a rush charge from a supplier who only takes phone calls, gas receipts that didn't match the truck's mileage, a new company called Northgate Maintenance LLC showing up in our books as a miscellaneous service, which made no sense because I was the one under the truck with the flashlight. I asked Everett about it, and he laughed it off. That laugh that lightens the room for people who'd rather not look too closely. He said I was micromanaging and needed to focus on the big picture. My gut didn't buy it. Around the same time the books were getting weird, Marissa's phone got very busy very late at night. I'm not going to write out every notification or we just connect on a deeper level. You know that feeling of an elevator dropping with no cables. It was what you imagine. She told me we'd grown in different directions and that Everett respected my drive. Drive is a good word when it's attached to a truck that starts every morning. It's something else when it's attached to impulses and compliments. The divorce moved faster than my heart did. I signed because I was tired. I got my truck, my personal tools, and a schedule with Theo. That's the only calendar I really care about. Everett bought out my share of the business for a number that seemed fair until you subtract the busted knuckles and cold mornings. I got a steady job with a bigger company in the next county over. I'm a foreman now. I still turn wrenches, but I also make sure the new guys don't put their hands where the springs remember fingers. The check comes on Fridays and I sleep. It's not a small thing. I also kept a portable hard drive with QuickBooks backups for tax purposes and an old folder where I'd saved anything that felt wrong. Duplicate gas logs, a check made out to Northgate Maintenance LLC, an email from a customer 2 summers back. Hey, did you cash that second deposit? We only sent one. LOL. Nobody laughs in an email about disappearing money unless they're trying to soften the blow. I'm not book smart, but I'm good at keeping receipts and writing the right date in the corner. If you need the short version, my ex married my ex-partner. Before that, she told me I should pay for their wedding because it would be what's best for Theo. I agreed to help. That's the beginning. The rest is just a lot of paper. A courthouse, a vending machine brownie, and a new magnet sign on an old van. I grew up in a small house on the edge of a road that floods if the ditch isn't cleared. My room faced the driveway, and I'd hear a truck start at 5 a.m. when there was paving work. Most things don't need to be new, just the right tool and a second try. We never had fancy, but our tools outlasted the fads. As a kid, I took apart a neighbor's broken door opener and got it to run for a few seconds with a battery. When it turned, I felt like a light went on in my head. Since then, I've liked work where reality talks back. A door either runs smooth or it doesn't. A measurement is either exact or it's a hair off. On weekends, I let Theo hold the tape measure and call out the numbers, even the wrong ones, so he learns that small mistakes teach steady hands. Our town isn't special, but people remember who shows up when the tools fight back. That's the reputation I want more than a photo album with flower arches and rehearsed laughter. It was a Wednesday at noon when Marissa called like she was reading from a script. I was in a warehouse on a repair job where everything echoes and the forklifts beep with a rhythm you don't forget. She said, "We set the date, it's the 14th. We, meaning her and Everett. I was calling because it would be best for Theo if you contributed. It shows we're a team. He needs to see you supporting his true father figure. I said his what? His true father figure, she repeated slowly, as if the words were too heavy for me. You're his dad, obviously, but Everett is the role model in our home. If you refuse, it will confuse him. She's good with words that sound like they came from a podcast. It's like she builds a stage while she's talking and wants you to step onto it. How much? I asked. Because sometimes you have to let the sentence hang there before you decide what to do with it. She said, the venue deposit is $4,100 for the hall, and the officiant is $175. It's not about the money, it's about the message. The message. Understood. I told her to text me the time. She replied, I knew you'd do the right thing. And she hung up. I stood there looking at a dented loading dock bumper while a forklift operator asked me if the door would be ready by 2. My mind was in 2 rooms at once. That night, after Theo was asleep, he keeps a small flashlight under his pillow like he's watching a lighthouse. I pulled out the folder. I spread the papers out on the kitchen table like a puzzle you don't want to finish. I looked again at the invoices from Northgate Maintenance LLC, the fuel card logs with miles that didn't add up, and the customer email about a second deposit that never hit our books. I remembered Everett's cousin. He suddenly had a company with an acronym, though he really runs a small car detailing service that moves locations every month. I decided I would help with the wedding. I would help without joining the performance. I would be the boring adult who keeps his word to a kid, but also the kind of man who doesn't let someone use the phrase for the sake of the child as a crowbar. That meant being careful. No shouting in a parking lot. It meant papers. It meant clocks. I called my old accountant, who I'll just call my accountant here because that's how I want to tell it. I asked him a general question. If a person had books and bank files showing a partner might have created a shell company and funneled deposits, how does a regular citizen handle that correctly? He told me, don't confront. Preserve everything. Report through the proper channels. Don't edit anything. Keep originals and copies. I wrote that on the folder tab with a marker because I know myself when I get angry. I want to fix things, and fixing with your hands on a person isn't fixing. I made copies and backups. I wrote a list of dates on a single sheet, what I had, who it involved, and why it looked wrong. I'm not a professional at this. I'm a guy who knows that if you handle a torsion spring wrong, you'll have a bruise for a month. Same rule applies here. Move slow, calculate the load, and stand where the whip can't get you. I texted Marissa that I would cover the officiant and the deposit. I kept the words short on purpose. She replied with a row of hearts and a picture of a mood board with wood, lanterns, and things with jute rope. I texted back, understood. Theo sent me a fox sticker for no reason, and it made my night. He does that sometimes. Changes the weather. I slept badly after that call. Not because of heartbreak, but because of how a phrase like true father figure tries to rearrange the furniture in your head. The next morning I noticed small details I usually miss. The magnet letters that spell T-Chio, with the T backward, because he likes it that way. A scuff on my boot from a ladder rung. The quiet hum of my own garage opener that I've been promising to adjust for weeks. I kept hearing the thin patience in Marissa's voice that pretends to be kindness. At lunch, a coworker asked me what I was going to do. Pay for what I said I would, and write down everything else, I told him. That night, Theo asked me how a torsion spring lifts a heavy door with no muscles. I drew a diagram on a pizza box lid. He looked at it like it was a secret. Some people talk like they're the spring, but it's really the cable, the drum, the steel bar. Each one honest about what it can hold. He nodded. So, teamwork. Yeah, teamwork, where every part is honest. I called the state tax department's hotline. The person who answered sounded tired but still cared. I told her I had books, bank documents, and invoices linked to a possible shell company. They gave me a case number and a secure portal. I uploaded the files like someone trying to fill a kiddie pool with a hose that finally reaches. I also sent an email to the county's financial crimes unit with the same case number. I didn't write a speech. I attached the files. I wrote, ex-partner from this date to this date. Missing deposits. Supplier appears fake. Incorrect gas receipts. Customer email second deposit. Northgate linked to family member. That was it. Paper talks better than I do when it matters. Then I called the courthouse clerk's office to ask about civil weddings. In our county, There's a license fee, $60 and change, and you can schedule a simple ceremony on certain afternoons. Do you need an officiant? I paid the officiant's retainer, $180. A little more than Marissa said, but still in the ballpark. I paid it because I said I would, and because of Theo. He'll never hear that his dad broke a promise, at least not from me. I also called the county jail with a purely hypothetical question, because my mind wants to know where the roads go, even if I never walk them. I asked, if someone is in custody and wants to have a ceremony, is that possible? The person replied, yes. If both parties have a license, an approved officiant, and the command staff authorizes it, it's done in the non-contact visiting room, with the paperwork passed through the glass. I said thank you. I hung up and stared at the ceiling until the paint looked like a map. To be honest, I thought it was just a piece of trivia I'd never use. Life usually hears that and gives a shrug. 2 days before the date, someone from Financial Crimes called me. Quiet voice. He asked if I had the originals. Yes. Had I changed anything? No. Was it likely the person named Everett would be at the courthouse on Friday at 1 p.m. to get the license notarized? According to the texts, yes. We'll be in touch, he said. That phrase either means nothing or it means exactly what you hope. This time, it meant exactly what I hoped. No noise. I told Theo I'd be at the courthouse. He asked if there would be cake. Probably not cake, but I can get you one of those cupcakes with the crunchy sprinkles. Okay, he said, in that serious tone he uses when he's secretly excited. Then he asked, do I have to call him Dad now? I told him, no, you call people what they really are. I'm Dad. He's Everett. I could see the air go out of his shoulders, like a tire getting its pressure back. The morning of, I put on a decent shirt and the boots that don't squeak. I put the officiant receipt and the license money order in the glove box, because my mind needs every piece of paper to live in a labeled drawer. I got to the courthouse 20 minutes early and sat on a bench under a painting of a river that looked like it had been ironed flat. I texted her, I'm here. Marissa replied 5 minutes later with more exclamation points than necessary. The building hummed the way public buildings do, where the air ducts, the footsteps, and the soft echoes of voices create a kind of low tide inside your head. Preserve sounds boring until you realize how many problems solve themselves when you don't chase anyone down and just set a clear table for the right person to walk up to. I photocopied every weird receipt I had and put them in plastic sleeves like I was back in school with a project due. I wrote the company names on a list and drew arrows to the weeks when the fuel usage had doubled on paper, even though the jobs were in the same city, not a state away. I searched old emails for second deposit and found 3 threads where people were apologizing for the confusion after sending money twice. My stomach tightened reading them. I didn't look up the LLC records because I didn't need a detective's light. The pattern was already shouting. I called the bank to ask how long they kept statements, not for drama, but for accuracy. The person told me they could issue certified copies if requested properly. I put that note in the folder, too. The only time I raised my voice all week was at a stuck hinge on a service door that seemed determined to stay put forever. I whispered at it like a stubborn mule, and it gave. It felt like an omen. They arrived like a small parade. Marissa in a white dress that looked cold, pulled from a page that sells pictures of dresses more than dresses. Everett in a blue suit whose shoulders were begging to go back on the hanger. Theo in a tie he was pulling at like it was trying to escape. Behind them were 2 of Marissa's friends, already on their toes, ready to hold up their phones. Thanks for paying the officiant, Marissa said. You're welcome, I replied, and I squeezed Theo's shoulder. He smelled like hair gel and the cereal he always drops 3 pieces of on purpose to share with the dog that now lives with his mom and still thinks I'm his favorite person when I stop by. We had to wait. Bureaucracy is a line where you pretend the air doesn't feel weird. Everett joked with the person at the window that marriage is like a contract with better pictures. He laughed at his own joke. The clerk didn't. That felt like a small win for reality. Right before their number was called, 2 people in plain clothes walked up like they were going to ask for the time. They said Everett's name. He answered, yeah, without looking up from his phone. They showed him a paper, then another one. He tried that smile he uses on customers when the price goes up. That room doesn't care about your smile. They turned him gently, spoke quietly, and did their jobs. There were no raised voices, just the hum of the ducts and the tick of the second hand, and Marissa, making a sound like a kettle just before it whistles. Theo pressed into my side. I knelt down to his level and said, "You okay? Stay with me." He nodded like a little man, hearing a simple instruction he could trust. Marissa tried to grab Everett's arm. One of the plainclothes officers said, "Ma'am, step back." They escorted him down a side hall. The clerk said, "Next, because the world is a conveyor belt." "Do something," Marissa said to me. "Pay his bail. Fix this. Theo is watching." "I already did my part," I answered calmly. "The officiant is paid. The venue is arranged." "What venue?" she snapped, her eyes sharp and bright. That look used to move me. Now it just makes my bones tired. "The one you get," I said. "They do ceremonies in the visiting room if you have a license and an officiant. Since you're here for the license, that part's covered." She looked at me like she was reading a manual in a language she doesn't understand. "You planned this," she finally said. "You wanted to embarrass us?" "I told the right people the truth months ago. They did their job today because that's their job. You picked the date, you brought him here. Consequences aren't personal just because they happened to you." She called me petty. She said I was bitter. She said I was ruining Theo's memories. Theo tugged on my sleeve and whispered, "Cupcake after?" "Yeah," I told him. He nodded like someone approving a plan on a work form. An officer came back out, very calm, and explained that if they wanted to proceed, they'd need to get the license first, then coordinate with the jail and the officiant. "No phones back there," the officer said. "No contact. Paperwork goes through the slot." Marissa lifted her chin like someone who thinks chin height can change gravity. "We'll do it," she said. I texted the officiant. "Change of venue. Visiting room. Fee paid. We'll understand if you decline." The reply came back fast. "Can be there in 10. Professionalism is a comfort. You don't know how much until you're in a hallway where feelings and fluorescent lights share the air. Courthouses have their own smell, paper, floor cleaner, and old air. Ours has a mural on the 3rd floor where pioneers look brave without sweating, which means the painter never pulled a wagon through mud. I watched people while we waited. A couple arguing quietly with a clerk over a typo in a name that will live forever on a birth certificate. A teenager in a too big suit trying to sit without wrinkling it. A woman reading a 3-year-old magazine without turning the page. Everett tried to charm the room, but charm is a battery with the wrong voltage in this place. Theo asked me if I had a comb because his hair felt confused. I smoothed it down with my hand. He said thanks and then whispered, "I don't have to go up there." I told him no. He looked relieved, and I got mad at myself for not making that clear sooner. When the officer spoke to Everett, he did it with a tone so normal and light that half the room didn't look up until the cuffs glinted. I respected it in a way I can't explain. Professional people, quiet voices, and steady feet make the world wobble less. The county jail lobby smells like bleach and exhaustion. The chairs are bolted together so no one can rearrange the room into a kinder shape. Signs everywhere. No phones, no pictures, do not touch the glass. It hums like a big refrigerator. Marissa walked in with a bouquet that already looked tired. The officiant arrived with a small leather folder and the look of someone who can work in any weather. The deputy called Marissa's name and buzzed them through a door that clicked shut like a finished paragraph. I stayed with Theo because 9 years old is too young to hear promises through a handset and a piece of glass. We sat. He swung his feet and watched the turning screw inside the vending machine push a pastry toward gravity. "That's cool," he said. "It is," I agreed. 15 minutes later, the officiant came back and signed a form at the desk. Marissa came out last, eyes red but chin still high. She held up her hand. There was a ring. It looked like a promise made of tin. "We did it," she said into her friend's phone. A sentence that says a lot more than she thinks it does. Theo tugged my sleeve. "Cupcake." The vending machine didn't have cupcakes, it had brownies, plastic wrapped in small bags of pretzels. I bought both and split the brownie with him. It tasted like cocoa and compromise. He chewed and said, "This is weird." "It is," I told him. "You and me are okay." He nodded like he believed me, and I felt my shoulders let go of a tension I didn't know they were holding. Marissa walked over and knelt to Theo's level. "We got married," she said, a little breathless. "Everett and I did it." "Okay," Theo said, in that tone kids use when they're filing a fact away without judging it yet. She stood up and looked at me. "You're proud of yourself, aren't you?" You think this makes you strong. I'm proud of Theo, I told her. And I'm glad I didn't lie about what things are called. We walked out into a sky that looked stapled in place. Theo asked for the song with the hand claps. I put it on. He beat his knees like he was keeping time with traffic. Sometimes being a father is just being a metronome with a heart and a car seat. That night when I dropped him off, Marissa asked if we could talk. I told her we could exchange information about Theo. She asked if I would write a character letter. She said, Everett is misunderstood, and this was an overblown paperwork issue. I told her, I will not write any letters. I said, my focus is Theo's schedule, school, and shoes. I said, good night. In the lobby, time did that thing where it stretches like a rubber band. 1 minute gets long until it feels like an hour, then it snaps. Theo asked why the chairs were bolted together. Probably to keep the room in the same shape all day, I told him. That's funny, he said. He's right. The officiant sat near us and gave Theo a small nod, like to say, good job, kid. You're handling it. I like that. No speeches, just a gesture. When Marissa came out with the ring, she held her hand up like a catalog picture. Theo looked at it with no wonder, which told me everything I needed to know about what actually impresses him. On the way out, we passed a sign with the visiting rules. Theo stopped and read every point. He asked what no third-party messaging meant. I explained it means you can't try to pass a message through another person like a backpack. That's dumb, he said. And I agreed. We got to the truck, and he told me the brownie made his teeth feel sticky. I handed him a water bottle. He rinsed and spit in the grass. Better, he said. I decided to remember that. Sometimes you can't change the menu, but you can fix the aftertaste. Paperwork moves slowly until it doesn't. Everett was charged with a handful of things that sound boring until you picture your own bank account next to them. Fraud, theft, document forgery. The state sent me a short letter with a case number and a thank you. A few familiar suppliers called me. Angry, then grateful, then asking if I knew a good installer, because they still had doors to hang and money to pay. I said yes to what I could. Saying yes is a form of revenge when you're doing it for people who pay on time and look you in the eye. Marissa called me 2 days later with a voice I rarely hear from her. They set bail, she said. $132,000. I need you to help, for Theo's sake. He needs his father figure to come home. Theo's money is for Theo, I told her. School, clothes, savings, the dentist. I will not pay to undo what an adult built for himself. She said I was cruel. I said I was clear. Then the wedding vendors started calling her. The hall kept the deposit and offered her a Tuesday in winter as compensation, a kind of shrug and a coat. The florist wanted the balance for the peonies now sitting sad in a cooler. The videographer wanted his second payment. Marissa sent me a paragraph saying everyone is suffering because of you. I bought Theo new cleats, a mouthguard, and a book about bridges, because he's fascinated by how weight gets moved through triangles. We sat at my kitchen table and built a little structure out of toothpicks and pennies and watched it hold. That felt like a better use of money than bail. I got a notice about a sheriff's auction, assets from a certain business to cover certain things. 2 vans, a dump trailer, a manual forklift, inventory of openers, a stack of torsion bars, and the good shaft drive motor I used to take care of. I went because I'm not above a second chance when the price drops into a neighborhood I can afford. I walked in with a cashier's check I'd been saving and telling no one about, just in case life gave me a window that used to be closed. I bought the white van for $6,000. I bought the shaft drive motor for less than a cheap drill. I bought the business phone number because it was listed as an asset when they shut the account for non-payment. I had a magnet ready for the side of the van. Vega. I slapped it on right there with a sound that felt like turning a page. A woman handed me a title across the same counter where I used to pay for dog tags and park passes. Paper can build or it can break, depends on which pile you stack it in. Marissa saw me in the parking lot. Of course she did. She walked over like she was going to scold me into a new shape. You can't, she said. That's ours. It was, I said. It's not anymore. Please, she said, her voice dropping. Don't drive it past our house. Theo will see it. He'll think you took something. Theo is with me this weekend, I told her. He'll see me taking care of what's mine. She tried a softer approach. I could get a job, something in an office, part-time. I'm good with people. I'm hiring installers, I told her. Knee pads, dust, and an honest wage. If you know anyone who can make a straight line and doesn't skip steps, send them over. Her mouth made a shape and then unmade it. She went back to her friend. A phone was pointed at me like an eye. I gave it a wave. I don't mind being the background in a post. Posts fade. Doors stay up. I got a collect call that night with a robot voice. I let it go the first time. Then a message came through the co-parenting app. He needs a character letter. A statement from you, just a few lines. Please help him. Do it for Theo. I wrote, I will help Theo. I will not help with bail, fees, or your husband's case. I sent it, put my phone face down, and went out to the driveway to look at the van. It's a tool, not a trophy. I want my son to see tools, not trophies. That's a little rule I made for myself, and I've tried to keep it. The next week, I called the phone company and transferred the business number to my account. The representative read me the terms. I signed what you sign when a line changes hands. After that, when people called the old business, they got my greeting. You've reached Vega. New management. If you need service on a door installed before, we'll fix it at cost if you have proof. People called. Some were angry at first, and then calm when I showed up with a level and a ladder and no speeches. Some had been left with half-installed rails and a hanging promise. I finished the jobs. I charged a fair price. Reputation moves quietly and then gets loud when you keep showing up. My first week with the old number, 31 calls came in. A bakery said their delivery door never sealed right. I adjusted the top fixture, reset the limits, changed the bottom seal at cost. Just tell the next guy I came, I told them. Another client wanted a commercial opener for a storage shed. I explained that a good residential model would be happier and cheaper. He thanked me for the plain truth and hired me. A landlord asked if I wanted the old shop space. I said no. Then yes, when the rent dropped to a number you can carry without bending your back. I kept my day job while the new one grew. This is a ramp, not a jump. My phone buzzed during dinner and my son smiled because he likes it when work and life share a table and nobody is shouting. If you came here for fireworks, there aren't any. If you came for a plan that uses gravity and paper and time, that's what I have. The day Marissa tried to have a redo reception in her cousin's backyard, I ran a soft reopening special. Free spring safety inspection if you bring in a receipt from the old business. I put a square graphic on a community board and texted 5 clients I knew had been left hanging. It was enough. I spent that Saturday tightening bolts, adjusting limits, and teaching a kid how to keep his fingers clear of the drums. People paid me with checks, with cards, with gratitude, the kind that looks like a glass of water offered on a hot day. The backyard party still happened. Fewer cars than she expected. A neighbor told me she explained it was the weather. The sky was a perfect blue. Sometimes the weather isn't in the air. Marissa called me again that night. No hello. Transfer the number back, she said. You've made your point. Give me back the Facebook page, the phone, the client list. This is cruel. It was listed and it was sold. I told her. I bought it. I'm using it to fix what people paid to have fixed. You're humiliating us, she said. Theo will grow up and see this, she said. Theo will grow up and see doors that work, a calendar with his name written on it, and a father who kept his promises, I told her. He'll also see that calling something a message doesn't make it the truth. 2 days later she wrote, I can't pay the florist. Can you at least help with that? It's only $700. I wrote back, I will pay for Theo's school trip and his new science kit. That's what I'll pay for. She sent a long line of dots, like a thought crawling across the screen looking for a place to land. Then, please write the letter. Then, please, I'm begging you. Begging is a shape some people think fits everyone. It used to fit me. I used to carry it like a heavy bag I agreed to hold even when it was never mine. I put it down. I wrote back, no. Then I sent a picture of Theo's toothpick and penny bridge holding more weight than it was supposed to and wrote, show him this. Tell him triangles send the weight where it can be held. She didn't reply. It was fine. The message was for my son. Anyway, weeks went on. Paperwork piled up in other rooms where I wasn't. Everett took a plea deal, one with math attached. The business name was left ownerless, and then it became mine because I filed the form and paid the $49 fee before anyone else remembered. I stripped the old logo off the van and left the sun-faded silhouette there for a week on purpose, like a ghost teaching a lesson. Then I buffed it out and put my new magnet on as straight as I could get it. Theo helped me measure. He's good with the tape. He makes sure the hook is really on the edge before he sings out the number. That little honesty will make his life easier if he keeps it. Marissa asked one more time, this time in person at my door. Please, she said, loan me $5,000. I'll pay you back. He'll be out soon. We can restart. We can be cordial again. Help me, Grant. The word, please, sounded like a code she was trying on that didn't belong to her. I am helping, I told her. I'm helping the one person who didn't choose any of this. Theo has what he needs. He has a desk that doesn't wobble. He has shoes that fit. He has a calendar that doesn't move when it says Dad Day. I tell him what things are called, and then I show him. I don't just tell him. She blinked like the wind had hit her eyes by surprise. You're cold, she said. I'm consistent, I replied. There's a difference. They just look the same from a distance. Theo and I went inside and made grilled cheese sandwiches. We drew a little diagram of a torsion spring on a sheet of notebook paper so he'd understand how stored energy can be helpful or dangerous depending on where you put your hands. We cleaned up. We watched a video of a garage door failing safely because a cable held like it was supposed to. Theo asked why the cable didn't break. Because someone sized it right and checked it when it needed checking, I told him. He nodded like a man twice his age. The last line of this whole story is simple. Marissa wanted me to pay for a message. I paid for what mattered, covering the officiant. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.